They came from the endless grasslands, a force of nature on horseback. A people with no cities, no walls, yet they would bring the world's greatest empires to their knees. How did these nomads, dismissed as barbarians, conquer civilizations that had stood for 1,000 years? This is the story of the horse lords, the steppe warriors, and the day the world changed forever. Our story begins on the vast Eurasian steppe, a colossal sea of grass stretching from Eastern Europe to Manchuria. For millennia, this was the domain of nomadic tribes, the Scythians, the Huns, the Turks, the Mongols. Their lives were dictated by the seasons and the needs of their herds. They lived in felt tents called gers, easily packed onto carts. Their wealth wasn't in gold, but in livestock. They had no written laws, but a rigid code of honor. To the settled peoples in China, Persia, and Rome, they were a terrifying mystery, a constant, unpredictable threat on their borders. Why does this matter? Because the clash between the nomad and the farmer, the steppe and the city, is one of the most powerful engines of history. It's a story of survival, adaptation, and a struggle for dominance that would reshape the very map of the world. The conflict wasn't just about land or resources. It was a fundamental clash of worlds. On one side, you have sedentary civilizations. They built great cities, monumental architecture, and complex bureaucracies. They relied on agriculture, which tied them to the land but also made them vulnerable. Their armies were often composed of infantry, slow and cumbersome. On the other side, you have the nomads, born in the saddle. They were arguably the greatest cavalry the world has ever seen. The composite bow, a marvel of engineering, allowed them to fire devastating volleys of arrows at a full gallop. Their tactics were fluid, based on feigned retreats, lightning-fast raids, and psychological warfare. For empires, the nomads were a nightmare. They couldn't be pinned down. Fortified walls, the ultimate defense for cities, meant little to an enemy who could simply ride around them and devastate the countryside, cutting off supplies and starving the cities into submission. The stakes were immense. For the empires, it was the survival of their entire way of life. For the nomads, it was a battle for resources for pasture, and sometimes for their very existence in a harsh and unforgiving environment. The turning point wasn't a single battle, but a revolutionary idea that took hold in the mind of a young outcast in the early 13th century. His name was Temujin, but the world would come to know him as Genghis Khan. Before him, the nomadic tribes were a fractured, feuding people, constantly at war with one another. Their power was immense, but it was never united. Genghis Khan changed everything. Through sheer force of will, brilliant military strategy, and ruthless determination, he did the unthinkable. He united the Mongol tribes under a single banner. He shattered the old tribal loyalties and forged a new identity, a nation on horseback. This unification was the critical moment. It transformed the scattered power of the steppes into a disciplined, unstoppable military machine. Suddenly, the full focused might of the nomads was aimed not inward, but outward. With a unified army and a clear chain of command, Genghis Khan and his successors unleashed a conquest of unprecedented scale, creating the largest contiguous land empire in human history. The world had faced nomadic raids before, but it had never faced a nomadic state with the ambition and power to conquer continents. The legacy of the Mongol Empire is complex and often misunderstood. They were destroyers, yes. Cities that resisted were wiped from the face of the earth, but they were also builders and connectors. By conquering the vast expanse of Eurasia, they created what historians call the Pax Mongolica, the Mongol Peace. For the first time, a single power controlled the ancient Silk Road. Trade flourished like never before. Marco Polo's journey to the east was only possible because of the security the Mongols provided. Ideas, technologies, and cultures moved freely across the continent. Gunpowder from China made its way to Europe, a development that would fundamentally change warfare. But this interconnected world had a dark side. It's believed the Black Death, the devastating plague that killed a third of Europe's population, traveled west along these same trade routes. So what's the lesson for us today? The story of the Nomads is a powerful reminder that history is not a simple line of progress. It shows that perceived barbarians can possess sophisticated social structures and military genius. It proves that what seems like a periphery can suddenly become the center, and that disruptive forces can both destroy and create in equal measure. It teaches us that interconnectedness is a double-edged sword, bringing both prosperity and peril. The nomads who conquered civilization challenge our assumptions about power, progress, and what it truly means to be civilized. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into the past insightful, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more stories that shaped our world.